I'm very sad to say that KDE Plasma received a bad review, which is somebody thought that KDE Plasma 6.4, the latest release, is a worrying trend and criticizes many of the new changes in this version, which fair, and actually I'm tremendously happy to see that there are reviews of KDE Plasma. Very often I just see like videos to explain what's new in the version without any kind of commentary. I'm very happy when that's not the case. So, I mean, let's just look at it, go through it, because obviously as a KDE Plasma developer, I sort of disagree. I think that actually there are mistakes and I have a different point of view. So I'll try to argue why no, actually KDE Plasma 6.4 is actually pretty good. So let's get through this. So first of all, there's a very big point being made of Wayland. So it says basically that I'm not going to do any big philosophizing. I've already done that, blah, blah, blah. Simple usage examples. Let me show you. Wayland fails basic functionality tests on my IdeaPad machines, blah, blah, blah. No excuses. And we do have blah, blah, blah. Wayland has a 21 seconds boot with 1.4 gigabytes and a CPU that goes continuously at 8%, and the GPU jumps to 100% every 2 or 3 seconds. So I don't know what's up with that, and if we compare it with X11, it's sort of similar, except there's no CPU going on in the background and the GPU never moves. So I have no clue what could affect this. If it's a clean boot, after a clean boot, there's some stuff going on in the background. There's some indexing from Baloo. There's some Plasma browser integration popping up. There's many different things that, prepare the computer for usage, and those take some CPU and GPU. Of course, it's weird that it's different from Wayland to X11. Without any specifics, I don't know what's happening. Generally speaking, if you do benchmarks, most of the benchmarks I've seen at least say that Wayland actually performs better than X11, gives better performance even if you're like playing games on it. And, that's what I would expect out of Wayland. And I'm not sure why on your computer specifically you see this weird GPU jumping to 100% and 8% CPU. I don't know. It's sure, it's a thing. Like you're experiencing it. I'm not denying that. But me as a KDE Plasma developer, I would argue that the more general trend is that people switching to Wayland often claim that the performance has improved and not decreased. So I can't help to see that as a good change. Then there's fonts. All the fonts were simply hard to read in Wayland. It felt like they were constantly being re-rendered and there was blurred edges to them. I hope I can show you this in the following sequence of screenshots, blah, blah, blah. So first of all, to be truly honest, I don't quite see the difference, but I actually do have a pretty bad eye to this kind of things, so don't trust me. You can see for yourself whether you see any difference or not. Regardless of this, there's some technical interesting stuff behind this. Firstly, on X11, there is no system for fractional. Is there any fractional scaling? Actually, I sort of assumed that we were doing fractional scaling in here. I think we get to it. I think we do. And the thing is that on X11, there's no kind of fractional scaling. Or maybe it was like X windows on Wayland, so that instead of drawing the window at the side it should, it gets drawn at double the size and then scaled down, and that takes a lot of resources and ends up with some blurrier font. And there is a change in Qt that actually changes that and allows to have proper fractional scaling in Qt applications such as Kate. And that should help, even compared to X11. And generally speaking, the support of fractional scaling in Wayland is significantly improving, and it should be even better with X11. I've talked with there's some people that really do have an eye on this kind of things, and I have very inconsistent data about this. Some people say that actually they cannot get good fonts, good crispy fonts with fractional scaling unless they use Wayland. That's the only way to get them. Some other people, such as this person, says the opposite. So I honestly haven't got any clue of what's going on. And generally speaking, I don't see that many people complain about bad fonts on Wayland. So I don't think it's a very widespread issue, but of course I don't have any solid data to back that up. I'm just going as like the best I can do, really. Ask around, see what people think, see what people report as bug reports. This is the best I can do. Of course, I'm not really involved in much of this, but like even if just in the process of trying to find this information to have an idea on this Wayland process. And if we go to system settings, indeed we see that he reports a weird default scaling of 105%. So fractional scaling, which I think could explain the blurry font. I'm not sure. Maybe he already fixed it. I don't know. Why is that happening? So I don't have any way to know that exactly. My best guess is that we added, not recently, but a while ago, but we did add a bit of logic to if you have like a very big monitor, then Plasma is going to automatically use a bigger scaling factor so that it adapts correctly to that monitor. It uses metadata from the display. And that makes sense, because if you have a very big monitor, then probably 100% scaling isn't going to make much sense. We expect you to be further away from the screen. And similarly, if you have a very small and dense screen, then 100% scaling doesn't make sense because everything is going to be super small. So automatically we pump up the scaling factor so that you actually see the icons. And the goal is to have throughout various kind of displays and PPIs, sort of the same icon size throughout, so that on different kind of devices, you still see the icons and they are the size that we thought they were going to be. Of course, there are a lot of monitors out there, so sometimes the logic may seem weird. And this is my best guess to why you got a 105% scaling out of the box. I'm not sure what monitor and PPI you have, but it could be that. It could be that given your monitor, we decided that it's a bit too small and a bit too pixel dense to have 100% scaling, but apparently not by that much. I don't know. That's my best guess at what's going on. And of course, you can just get rid of scaling and get back to 100%. So, as it says, Kubuntu 25 is going to come with Wayland as a default session and remove the X11 session. This is in red, a pure 100% anti-user move. Wayland is still beta, horrible, messy beta, even on integrated graphics on a laptop from 5 years back. So, no, Wayland is not an horrible, messy beta. I guess you could argue about the beta part, but certainly not a horrible, messy beta, because we actually do have data that most people starting out with Plasma 6 are starting out with Wayland out of the box. They are actually using Wayland, and the amount of complaining that we see out of it is lower than X11. We see it work better, so it's working better. The thing is that Wayland is not, and will never be, I think, a perfect replacement of X11, as in there will always be some issues that Wayland has, specific issues that X11 didn't have. And that's always going to happen. But the thing is that it's going to, the opposite is also true to a wider extent. X11 has more issues compared to Wayland. It's different. They both have issues compared to each other. They're different things, but X11 has more issues, and we are just trying to go to the direction of Wayland because it has a better structure, better permissions, more safety, and yada yada. So right now, what we see in the data is that actually it works pretty well and solves most of the issues and doesn't have very big blockers. It has some. That's true. And this idea of removing X11 even as an option is really to push the people forward so that we can see what these remaining blockers are and get rid of them so that we can move very quickly to Wayland altogether. As an example, artists still have significant issues moving to Wayland because tablet support, drawing tablet support is not as good. And so there's a lot of work going on with that. So understandably, some people that during this transition find issues in Wayland are going to complain, and there's a lot of effort going on to making sure that those complaints and those issues are fixed ASAP. So, but it's not horribly messy beta. Most of the feedback we have received is very positive. So I've explained this why weird value. And other observation, it's this IdeaPad has a sucky display and it's impossible to use for long periods of time with a default gamma. In Plasma X11 you can set this easily, and I always do from 1 to about 0.85. Wayland has no such option, but the KDE team are doing their best to try to accommodate with color profiles, although this is a workaround, not a solution, but at least they're trying. Changing color accuracy from power efficiency to color accuracy helped a lot, but still worse than X11 session with gamma adjusted. This is exactly what I was talking about before. It's a very specific issue that Wayland has and X11 didn't have, that we are very quickly trying to address with color profiles, and a lot of these smaller things like are harder to notice if people just stick to X11, that's it. So with big distributions getting rid of X11, because Wayland is in a pretty good state already, we are able to see what specific niche issues are still missing and address them as soon as possible again. We are trying to do color profiles, which might be a workaround. I'm not sure about the technical details, but seemed like a proper way to handle color profiles for the monitors. I'm not sure about that, but again, I understand this, but from going from this to saying that Wayland is an horrible, messy beta and there's a big mistake of trying to switch to it, completely different things. Doesn't make sense. And in the live session, I wanted to take screenshots of Spectacle to show you what gives. I need a second tool to do this. In the past, Scrot would do the job, except Scrot screenshots come out as empty black canvas in the Wayland session. So another basic simple program that Wayland messes us up. No, this is the point. Like, this is the thing that Wayland is trying to fix. In X11, each application can record all of your keystrokes and your entire screen without you knowing at any time, and that's a bit of a security concern. On Wayland, applications can ask for permission to record a certain monitor or window, and the user knows about it and actually has to accept that, and that's better. And applications are not like broken. If an application is unable to take a screenshot on Wayland, that's by design, because they shouldn't be allowed to. If an application wants to work in Wayland, and they should, then they're just gonna use the API to ask for to take a screenshot, and that's gonna work. So Scrot can absolutely work if it adapts to Wayland, and there's plenty of ways to take screenshots on Wayland. Spectacle is an example, but there's many, and even in more like professional settings, I'm using OBS to record the screen, and again, that uses all this permission system, and it works flawlessly. The GNOME screenshot tool also works. There's a simple screen recorder, I think, that also works on Wayland. I don't remember exactly, but again, there's plenty. So, you know, it's not Wayland's fault that Scrot is not using the APIs, and the X-Wayland bridge cannot fix that, because again, if the X-Wayland bridge simply said, okay, everybody can take screenshots of the screen at any time, then what's the point of like the security improvements of Wayland in the first place? So this doesn't make sense. I think this criticism of Wayland is completely misses the mark of what we're trying to do. The look and feel of Plasma. This is going to be a long video, isn't it? So it praises the look and feel, which is nice. We get a darker theme in Plasma 6.4, which is not dark enough. Fair enough. Fonts are too gray. The UI element separation is almost nil. Shouldn't the dark theme auto-adapt some sort of bright contrast full accent color to tell different areas apart? So far, the only really good implementation remains the crusty old Windows font. Everything else is a pale shadow of this fine setup. So this gets very subjective. Personally, I think that these two screenshots look pretty bad in my very subjective feeling. And but I don't know, this is subjective. The idea here, no contrast between the UI and panel. This would be, yeah, like yellow, blue, or plasma purple accent color and borders. We are trying to move away from putting borders around everything, because that actually creates a lot of visual weight, and that's bad. I get the point about the panel, but these kind of things aren't easy because you want to separate the elements, but at the same time also retain consistency. We can't use a completely different color for each thing. As an example, currently the big idea is to have a background color and a view background color. So what you see as the background of the panel, so let me zoom in. I can't zoom in because I'm on X11. I forgot about that. Funny enough, no, I'm on Wayland. Why I can't? I don't know. I sort of forgot what. Maybe I think I'm still on Plasma 5. You know, I think because my recording machine is a bit outdated. Sorry about that. Anyhow, this is the screenshot. You can see it, and there's the panel which uses the background color. And if you just take an application, the background is going to be the background color. On top of it, there's elements. And in particular, there's views, which as an example are in Dolphin, where you see all the folders, or in here, where you see the lists. And when you see the elements, you can click. The view is where you put content inside of it. It's a view. And that's a different color, a darker color usually. And we have these two main colors that we use throughout interfaces, the background and the background view. And usually that works pretty well. That manages to distinguish between the main view and a sidebar, which uses the background color. In this case, the sidebar is also a list, which is a view into itself. So that uses the same background color as the main view. We could argue about that. I feel like what we're doing here is good. We could argue about improving it. I'm open to opinions myself, but like this is some kind of established design that we're following. Ergonomic problems. It seems like these latest releases comes with a lot of bad stuff straight out of Windows 11 and GNOME 3 school of anti-ergonomics. And I do want to say that both GNOME 3 and Windows 11 aren't really bad UX. There's, of course, on the Windows side, a lot of very bad behavior towards the user, but it's understandable. Overall, there's very big issues with it, but overall, it's understandable. And GNOME 3, I actually also like the project. It's also quite understandable, and evidently users like it and are able to go use it in the interface, even if they're new to it. So I'm a bit worried to start talking about the Windows 11 and GNOME 3 school of anti-ergonomics. So rather than make things better and more efficient, some new changes in the UI actually introduce more work to the user. More mouse clicks. Yep, believe it or not, now the beauty of Plasma is that you can change this, but the defaults are still wrong. So sometimes more mouse clicks is better. And I'm gonna defend this opinion, because as an example, one thing that we could do is take system settings and put every single setting in the main page. You can scroll through it, it's gonna take a while, but everything is there. Nobody would like that. What we do is organize things into folders, and we can decide how many hierarchies are correct to reach a certain action. So as an example here, in Dolphin, previously the choice to how to see the main view, icons, compact, or details was like 3 buttons on the top like layer, top hierarchy. And now there's actually a single button that exposes these 3 options when you click on it. So it takes less space, and then it actually shows you the name, and you kind of can better understand what's going to happen when you click that. And sure, it's going to take 1 click more, but actually clicks are not a meaningful way to measure how good a UI is, because the time that you spend using an application is more spent like understanding what to click rather than doing the action to clicking. It doesn't take that much time to just click instead of click, like seriously. And what's the idea here? These 3 actions are very correlated within themselves. Like they all, if you change one, then the other one are going to switch off because they're mutually exclusive. And also they take a bunch of space because there are 3 icons. And if you want to explain what they do, you also need text. So it's 3 icons plus the names. And that's going to take a bunch of space. And Dolphin is a complex application with a lot of actions. So instead of that, we have a single button that shows all the 3 options. You show that they are mutually exclusive and then what they're going to do. And even better, since this then becomes a generic view button, we can put more stuff in here that are related to view. Now, again, I'm not on the latest KDE Plasma here, sadly. But on master, I'm pretty sure that there's like more option to like change the zoom as an example, because it makes sense to have it there. You have a button about the view where you can change what type of view you have, and then the zoom amount of the view that you're changing. And then there's more, whether to show hidden files, I think was another option. All of that makes sense to have it there. And if we instead just stick to having 3 icons, that's going to lead to a worse user experience, because the user is going to open up and see triple the amount of icons and without labels, and he has to click on them to understand what they do. And if the user is searching for a certain action, it's less likely for him to find it. So yes, it's 1 more click, but it's a better organized click, and that's the point with UX. Sure, if you already know what it does, then it's 1 more click for you, but we also want to make sure that new users getting to Plasma can use Plasma. And we've always been told that KDE Plasma is too difficult to use for newcomers. So this is addressing that. At the same time, Dolphin in its default form looks ugly and dejected. Why not add some buttons there, like home, refresh, perhaps cut, copy, and paste? So first of all, this is not what KDE Plasma what Dolphin looks like out of the box. I truly want to emphasize that, because it looks so much prettier than that. You can just open it, and it looks very pretty, and you can see that it's not this. But I get the point. So first of all, I feel like a big issue here is that the sidebar is this big, because of course there's the devices with very long names, but a normal sized sidebar that is much smaller is actually going to align with icons so that you don't see this empty space to the right of the icons. So that's already a thing. And also, what did I want to say? Yes, like, I don't know, if you really open up the latest Dolphin in our latest version, it looks pretty good. Seriously, just try it. I would show you, I'm not on the latest version, but I really don't see what the issue here is. I don't think it looks ugly or dejected. There's a clear, pretty header area with all the actions that you would want, a sidebar that is smaller than this usually, and then the view. And actually, there's this home, the URL bar, address bar, I don't know how to call it, which actually looks pretty cool. I've seen some changes in master to make it look even better. I don't think that adding buttons like cut, copy, paste is going to improve things. It's going to make this look any better. Why not add the home button? Because it's here, it's in the places section. It doesn't make sense. Refresh, no. The Dolphin auto refreshes. If you add a refresh button, it means that you're designing around, it's a workaround. Like, you shouldn't even need a refresh button. Cut, copy, paste. It shouldn't be needed, because if you select icons, most people just right click copy, right click paste. You don't really need it in the tools area. Doesn't really make sense. People don't expect it to be there. And why not make it nicer? Yeah, this is how he made it nicer. There's a lot of changes. First of all the icons on the sidebar are now no longer symbolic, so they're fully colored icons, which I think is a bad choice in my subjective opinion, because it creates so much visual weight, and whereas it should just be a sidebar. It shouldn't be a view in itself. It's a sidebar. This is so much weight for just a sidebar. And then we have here create folder. Is create folder really that important of an action that you need to always have it with the text create folder? And refresh, again, not needed. Home, again, not needed. These three icons, I don't see the point. And then the actual thing that you need for Dolphin, which is the address bar. It's not an address bar, but location bar. The location bar that shows you what folder you're in, because much smaller. If you're into like 3 folders, then that's not gonna be enough space to show the address, the location. I don't think this is an improvement on this. I really don't. And of course there's also, but I think he's gonna talk about this even later, but let's address it immediately. He also replaces the hamburger menu with the menu bar. And people might rightfully prefer the menu bar. And I do want to say that it takes 0 effort to switch from an hamburger menu to a menu bar. You press Ctrl M on any application, whoop, done. You're back to the menu bar. So if you prefer the menu bar, it's really easy to get back to it. Now, of course, the question is, what do we want to present to users out of the box? And what we have found is that, generally speaking, users react better to an hamburger menu. This is our impression. So this is what we're going. It's a nice hamburger menu that if you like, you can customize it. And if you add actions to it, then it's gonna also, like, if you add the back icon to the hamburger menu, then it's gonna disappear from the toolbar. So we did our best with a good hamburger menu. It's consistent between applications. And generally speaking, it seems to work better compared to the classic menu bar that you can still like take 0 effort to get back to if you prefer. So, this is the justification. Then there's spectacle. Let's talk spectacle. Almost half an hour. So the new spectacle is also bad. Firstly, it launches with Windows 11 GNOME style without a UI. Awful. Strong disagree. I mean, come on here. Everybody's doing this. And I don't think that you can just... I think there needs to be a point where if GNOME does it, Windows does it, Macintosh does it, Deepin does it, every single desktop does this, then you should start to think, okay, maybe I'm wrong. Like, everybody is doing it. I mean, it looks better. It's much more efficient. Like, press screenshot, you immediately get a screenshot of the screen, and you can just press enter and you've got a screenshot. Or you can immediately select which area you want to screenshot, and you can even like draw on it and take notes. It's so nice. It's such a nice UI. I don't get the criticism here at all. Second, even if you switch to window mode, you need more mouse clicks to get stuff done. Even the basic mode selection is now hidden under a generic button. So if you want to switch from active window to a rectangle to full screen, you need an extra mouse click. So this is the new, the new UI, I think. And it's a bit of simpler UI, because previously what we had was this giant sidebar with a lot of buttons and options, and you clicked on the button that you needed. Now it's much easier to see what's happening. You've got your screenshot. You can save it, copy it, save it, changing the file name, export it on edit. These are all the action related to the screenshot that you have. And then there's a button for a new screenshot, a button for a new recording, and the options. And if you want to take a rectangular screenshot, then you click on the new screenshot button, and then you click rectangular, and same goes for the recordings. So again, what changed is that we took an application that had all of these options just layered on the top layer, on the top hierarchy, without any sort of organization, and we actually created some categories, top level categories for them. So if you want to take a screenshot, instead of having a bunch of buttons in the sidebar and you click on now it's a single button, which is new screenshot. And if you click that, you can select which type of screenshot you want. Or you use the better full screen UI, which is much quicker. And it ends up saving space and being easier to use for a user. Really, if you have like 4 buttons just to take a screenshot, and then at least 2 buttons for a recording, and then all of these options that you see here were still on the top layer. If you've got all of that immediately exposed to the user, top level, it's overwhelming. And people rightfully always said Plasma is overwhelming to the user, and we're trying our best to make sure that it's actually a better experience out of the box for everybody, even if you're an expert and even if you're not. So sure, now to take a rectangular screenshot, you have to click new screenshot, rectangular. I feel like you're going to survive this. So why do this? I've just explained it. Why make the UI less efficient? Because it's more understandable. It's easier. It doesn't overwhelm the user. It's better UX. Takes one more click? Yes, but it's better organized. This is a very important point. Visual minimalism. Why? To try to lure idiots from Windows land over. I mean, I really don't feel like we should talk about the vast majority of people using computers as idiots. They're not idiots. They're people with, whose life doesn't revolve around using computers, rightfully so. My life does. But I don't know, even if I think of my girlfriend, if I think how she uses her computer, she has to do it for university, for work, but her work isn't developing as UIs. And so she kind of won't work, what I'm trying to say is probably you would call her an idiot because she needs this kind of UI that's better organized to use a computer. And I would argue that probably idiot is not the kind of term that we should be using about people whose whole life doesn't revolve around computers. And I think that they deserve to be able to use KDE Plasma as well. I don't think we're putting some, incredible burden on our existing expert users with this. Come on. And the benefit is pretty clear. People are able to use KDE Plasma much more easily, even if they're not very experienced with it. And if this is just random developer gimmicks, then it's not random developer gimmicks. It's a good design decision, I think, by the team. In fact, the default theme is also somewhat annoying. Why not use Breeze Classic so foreground and background window actually have different hues? Color contrast, accessibility once again. Why this depressing, pointless gray on gray? What's the logic? Windows 11 and GNOME do this horrible thing. Again, Windows 11, GNOME, Deepin, Macintosh. I don't know why Deepin stuck in my head like that, but all the popular kits are doing this. And it's because it's a good design. Again, it's a matter of This one is harder to explain, but if you look here, this is again hierarchy, I think. And it's an important point. So you've got the content, and then you've got a top bar with all the actions related to the content. And you can drag and drop anywhere to like move things around. You can, and this is like the CST on GNOME or Macintosh or Windows. We prefer to like give some extra space to the title bar so that you have always. There's many reasons. I won't get to it, but this is a decision that we made. But it's still the same logical. It's the same logical category, logical group. If you go back to this Dolphin, you're creating a lot of categories. Like you have the title bar, and then it's separate, and you have the tools, and then the sidebar, then the view, and that's putting extra burden. Whereas out of the box, you just have the toolbar on the top, sidebar, content. Toolbar with all the actions related to the applications. You can move it around, you can change the view, blah, blah, blah. The sidebar with commonly used places, and the view with the icons. Separating the toolbar and the content, it works worse. And again, everybody is doing this. And I think that it's not because it's trendy, it's because users react better to it. So let's do it too. No, believe me, we have no issues just not doing what Windows 11 and GNOME are doing if we think it's bullshit. Case in point, this CSDs. We don't do CSDs. We think it's a bad idea for plenty of reasons. We use SSDs. And I'm happy of that decision, and we just, even if everybody else is doing CSDs, we just stick with SSDs because we think it's better. Finally, tragically, I recently did test a Spectacle and told you about its hidden gems. Blah, blah, blah. Again, ergonomics-wise, it's been ruined. This is being very dramatic, I feel like. I don't feel like these changes have ruined Spectacle, just like I don't think Wayland is a horrible beta mess because on your specific computer the text is slightly blurrier. It's not a horrible beta mess, like it's why this drama? And I took these pictures with a bloody phone like some boomer because Scott couldn't do screenshots under Wayland, and because you couldn't just get another screenshot tool that is able to work under Wayland. You can just Google screenshots Wayland. I swear that you're going to find something. Come on. It's fair to say that Wayland made me boomer. No, I think you are regardless. I'm just kidding, by the way. And the floating panel. So the floating panel, almost 40 minutes. Okay, the floating panel is mine. I made the floating panel. So I feel called out. Nonsense. So the floating panel is, yes, fancy for the sake of being fancy. That is, I think, true. It's not just that. There's also a point of trying to make things in a different way compared to other desktops, in a way that doesn't hurt the user but helps you create a visual identity, so that when you look at a screenshot you go, that's Plasma. There's that part of it. Of course, if Windows decides to switch to floating panel anyway, then it's a moot point, and they do want to do that. But I do want to stress that when designing the panel, there was a lot of effort into making sure that it didn't hurt even the people who would prefer normal non-floating panel. And by the way, you can just go back to a normal non-floating panel. It's just the default. It's been for a while. If I want to slam my mouse cursor into the screen corners, I ought to do that without any major finesse. This is so important. You can. And this was a major point when designing the floating panel. This is called Fitz's law. And basically the idea is that, I was trying to show you my panel, but of course I'm not recording that. The idea is that if, when I designed the floating panel, I was like, okay, if somebody moves the cursor all to the edge, right now it works. And it actually, even on a non-floating panel, it works. And that's because there's some extra logic that redirects the mouse click from the border to inside of the button, because the button doesn't actually fill the whole thing. So I want that to still work even with floating panels. And that was a requirement to even have the option of floating panel, let alone have it as a default. And it works. If you just push the mouse to the corner, you still get the hover indication, and you can still click, and that's going to all work out of the box. And this was so important. All edges, it just works. And it's incredible how many people, okay, not that many, but there was like a couple of people who very loudly complained about me breaking FitSlow when I wasn't, when actually FitSlow was being preserved and it still worked, and they just didn't try. And you could say it's a UX problem, fair enough. But a floating panel means you need to aim like an idiot and waste your time trying to eat a floating No, you can just put the mouse into the corner, it's still going to work. That's the whole point. This was a requirement to have a floating panel. Luckily, you can change this, obviously. The KDE team has moved the dedicated button to a category called floating, and you need to choose either disabled or applets only for the panel to become normal. Again, why? Because there's a Qt6 widget that can do this. Meaningless. See, this is where I get annoyed. So not only there's these claims, which are completely incorrect, and you should have, I think, tried before writing this blog post. You could have said, yes, FitSlow still works, but in the user's mind, it doesn't register that you can actually click outside the floating panel to still that could have been a point to make. This is just wrong. You didn't even try, evidently. And then there's this, trying to guess what I was thinking when I created floating panels without doing any, like, I don't know, research on it, or like, this is very malicious. There's no Qt6 widget in any way or form related to this, and we've got floating panels for years before Qt6. This has always been a thing. How is Qt6 in any way related to this? And it's not like, oh, Qt6, sorry, it's actually very, I think, annoying to see somebody characterize as saying, oh, there's a new thing on Qt6, so I'm just going to use it without thinking. No, actually, we decided to do it. We decided to implement this feature. There was a lot of talking about this, how to make it, what's the proper way to preserve FitSlow. And it's not like, oh, new fancy thing, let's just do it without thinking. Come on. This hurts me. I'm hungry. And yeah, no. Then, Discover hides updates. You only see a generic a la GNOME. Again, GNOME, one thing that I think GNOME does really well is UX, because they've got some really good designers. And when they do changes, they do mockups, they do tests with users, and they are really good at this. We are not as good. Like, honestly, that's what I think. So this constant saying that Plasma now looks like GNOME, I'm going to take that as a compliment because GNOME actually has some pretty good designers, I think, overall. Of course, we disagree on certain things. We prefer to have for each application to do more things. GNOME has this approach of many minimalistic applications that each do small things. We prefer to have few big applications that are very full of features, different approaches, but the UX, GNOME is pretty good. So what's this? So basically, when you want to do a system upgrade, upgrading the system, not application. The application are still listed normally, but when you want to upgrade the system, then it's gonna say, hey, there's a system upgrade. And then there's a button to see what that upgrade brings, specifically in terms of changing the packages. And this is what the vast majority of users wants to see. It doesn't make any sense to open the Discover Update page and see a super long list of what each single package is going to be upgraded to, and the user is going to be, wow, there's like tens, hundreds of things to update. What's going on? If the user doesn't exactly know how many packages they have on, how many packages are required to run an operating system, because maybe they don't really meddle with packages, they're going to sort of panic because we're giving way too much information. It's going to be overwhelming. Like this, it's a better organization, again, because it tells you there's a system upgrade. Maybe it's also going to tell you there's a Dolphin upgrade. There's a, I don't know what else upgrade. And there's also a system upgrade, which is going to be switching to the next operating system. Every operating system does this. Every single one. Every single one. I cannot even speak now. Android, Windows, Macintosh, it's not gonna just tell you every single package that you're going to upgrade. It's gonna tell you there's a system upgrade. And we even put a button to see information about that upgrade. What are you complaining about? We are not taking away any feature. We are just making it better, easier to understand. My camera died because I've been ranting for way too long. Let's change the battery. I think it's also overheating, so I'll try to wrap this up. So as I say, this is better. Now, yeah, there's also third, again, this is a better nod towards simple atomic distros, the flatpaks and all that, whereby system and applications are separate. Nope, wrong implementation. Actually, Flatpaks, again, have a very good reason to exist, and it's a very good idea to separate system and applications, because that's going to be making the system much more stable and the vast majority. Again, if I have to make an example, when I set up Linux on my girlfriend's machine, because of course I'm that kind of a boyfriend, I set up KDE Neon, because what else was I going to set up? And that was a terrible choice for her, because KDE Neon can't do proper system upgrades, and multiple times the system broke during an update. And that's the worst case scenario, where I had to jump on a phone call at the worst possible time. One time it was 2 a.m. to troubleshoot a distant broken KDE Neon installation. And all of that should have been avoided regardless by the KDE Neon theme, personally, I think. But even if sometimes mistakes happen, you need a system with rollbacks, so that if anything goes wrong, you can roll back to the previous version immediately, automatically. You need a system that applies updates during a reboot, which we're going to get to. This video is never going to end. And you need a system that's for this kind of user, my girlfriend's kind of user, whose her life, again, doesn't revolve around computers. A system that's immutable, so that it doesn't actually break, and we can safely ship applications that we know are going to work. The reliability and, by the way, security is just very good. I don't want a Chromebook, and aping Google ain't gonna bring a magical desktop success. We're not trying to get a magical desktop success. We're trying to get a good desktop experience, laptop, whatever experience. Copying the story of Chromebooks with atomic builds, pseudo shiny stores, infinite blah blah blah. This is not what we're not trying to get market share by copying the success of somebody else. We're trying to do some good system that works for even non-techie people. Developers don't understand product. I mean, there's not much said here. But you do. I don't know. I don't think you do either. I'm not interested in saying any unverified program, blah, blah, blah. These are, I think, this is interesting. This is complaining about the fact that you're getting Flatpaks instead of system or packages when you search on Discover and such. Again, I think I've talked about that already way too much. 4. The system is configured to do updates after reboot for added reliability. Please stop with this Windows 11 nonsense. Either you do updates reliably or you do not. It's not that easy. Because the thing is, when you update a system, of course, everything gets updated to the new version on the disk. If you have something running, if you have your Plasma session running with Dolphin open inside of it, it's already on the RAM, so it's still the old version, whereas on disk you have the new version. And what happens is that if you close Dolphin and reopen Dolphin, then you have the new Dolphin version, but you still have the old Plasma because Dolphin has restarted, but Plasma hasn't. And same goes for the window management, KWin. You might have like, I don't know, say that you restart your Plasma session for any reason, then you have the new Plasma session, but you still have the old window management. And of course, the things are sort of designed to work together. And if you have a window manager that has a different version compared to the desktop, something might happen and things might break. A very typical example is that I've heard this complaint many times. Sometimes you do a system upgrade, you restart Dolphin, and Dolphin is completely broken because Dolphin is the new version, but Dolphin, in order to see files, relies on KeyIO server, which is a daemon that runs in the background that allows Dolphin to access files. And that hasn't restarted, so it's still the old version. And maybe some change in API, which is completely understandable, and then suddenly Dolphin cannot talk to KeyIO anymore, and you don't see your files. And that's an issue. We don't want that. And I don't think that you can design or develop your way out of this. You need your system to run a version, not a mix of different versions. These applications run this Plasma run this. That's bound to have issues. Now, of course, you can still, I don't know, skip that and do upgrades anytime you want. We are not forcing you, Windows is. But this doesn't change the fact that it's much safer to do updates with a reboot. And again, things like AB systems are nice because you can like install and the upgrade in the background so that it happens whilst you're using the system, and then you reboot and you switch automatically to the next version, and you don't have this mixing different versions together, but you also don't have to wait whilst there's a reboot. So that's nice. And you can still roll back if anything goes wrong. There's a lot of very nice things that you can do to avoid this, but we cannot deny that this is a problem that exists. It's not a matter of doing updates unreliably. It's a matter of we don't. If you update on the fly without a reboot, we don't know what kind of different versions the applications are going to be in your system. We don't know what you're running. We don't know what you're upgrading to, and if the two are going to be able to talk to each other depending on which components you restart and which you don't. There's an issue there. We cannot deny that. Okay, KDE Neon problems. And you know what? I feel like I've also criticized KDE Neon here, and I'm just sort of gonna skip this section because it doesn't really affect me. I'm not really feeling part of the KDE Neon team. I'm more of a Plasma person, and Yeah, it's true. Personally, I think that it's true that KDE Neon has some issues right now. Like the KDE Neon team also had some rough months or something. I don't know how to put that. And I don't know what's going to be the future of it. I wouldn't recommend it right now, personally. That's my opinion. But I'm ready to have my mind changed. But yeah, you can see that there's issues. I won't deny that. And so we got to the conclusion after an hour of this. Wayland aside, which is going to be a disaster and neuter the Linux desktop. Again, why? I mean, you cannot expect to be taken seriously when you say sentences like this. Like, come on. It's going to be a disaster and neuter the Linux desktop. This is having a giant blind spot on what is happening right now. Right now, the majority of people are using Wayland without an issue. This is what's happening right now. Mostly because Plasma 6.4 brings in several Windows-like and GNOME-like and Macintosh-like and Android-like and every single operating systems-like features that have no place on a reasonably designed desktop. And desktop is in uppercase. Touch-esque stuff that requires more clicks. Touch, again, this whole touch thing. By the way, I do have a touch screen. I want to use my touch screen. I want Plasma to work on a touch screen. Very sad. Now, I love KDE, I love Plasma, and I think the KDE team is doing a lot of great, sensible things. And their desktop environment is light years ahead of everything else out there. So why ruin it by mimicking cheap competition? I strongly disagree that Windows 11 or GNOME are cheap competition, or Macintosh. Again, there's a lot of things that I disagree on the philosophical level with both Windows and Macintosh, but they do have a lot of very well-paid designers, and they do a lot of UX. They're probably doing much more UX testing than us, and this is like what Mozilla did with Firefox by aping Chrome. No idea what this is about. And that does not translate to market share. Again, we're not trying to seek market share. We're just trying to build a good product. We do have this idea that if we build a better product, then we would like to also get more market share, ideally. But of course, there are so many other factors like Valve releasing another KDE Plasma console, or how much promotion we are able to do, how effective it is. It's not just about the quality of the software. Our end goal with all of these changes is just making a better product, nothing else. On the contrary, it makes your product worse. Strong disagree. I hope there will be a reversal of decisions and more focus on the poor desktopness on the desktop. No. Perhaps I'm overly pessimistic, but hey, Plasma 6 is being marketed with Wayland as one entity. Okay, because I mean it's the default session. Since Wayland makes desktop usage simple and flowed and less optimal, it's quite possible that the bundling of this inferior technology will infect Plasma and make it into less good desktop. By the way, there's no relation between the two, like between Wayland and the design decision that we make with the desktop. The fact that Spectacle has been redesigned isn't really correlated to the fact that Wayland, the benefits of Wayland aren't the same one of the benefits of redesigning Discover, like security and performance for Wayland and user, not overwhelming the user for Spectacle, these kind of things. Just imagine all the energy the KDE team wasted in Wayland being redirected to improving other meaningful things. But see, the fact that we spent a lot of energy on Wayland means that the KDE Plasma desktop, when used with Wayland, is now has better performances, is much more secure, these kind of things. It actually very much impacts the user. The same goes for pseudo-atomicity thingy. That can only work if there's a super 100% reliable upstream store, which neither the Snap Store or FlatHub are. I disagree that the Snap Store or FlatHubs are going to be much more unsafe compared to the package manager. Quite the opposite. Snap and Flatpaks are containerized, which brings an additional layer of security, so that's good. There's also this like verified thing on FlatHub that helps out, so you can just install verified. There's improvements to be made, like expanding this verified badge, showing the badge on Discover if it isn't already, these kind of things. And I know I definitely don't want randomly packaged almost real but not real results showing up but this is not it. I don't have infinite bandwidth either, and I have no desire to run a crippled Chromebook. We are not trying to do that. This is in no way the goal. I don't get why you're saying this at all. Like the whole thing of Chromebooks was like, what's the term? Like service, server as a service applications, like remote applications, like you do files and it's actually Google Drive remotely, and you do, I don't know, videos and it's actually Google Photos remotely, and no, that's not what's happening. We're not pushing for remote applications. We're just application that you run on your desktop. What does bandwidth have to do with that? And by the way, Chromebooks are decent, very, very decent lately. I do have a Chromebook. I've talked about how a Chromebook computer is sort of one of my favorite computers out there. So, ergonomic regressions, but user interface progression. I don't know. Again, this forcing you to waste time. I really don't believe that extra click is gonna waste time. Seriously, go ahead, measure your time. I actually do. Like, I measure how I spend my time, what I do with the computer. The number of clicks isn't it. My performance is not affected by the fact that I now have to do 2 clicks to get a rectangle screenshot instead of a... And I don't have to, because the new interface I can just drag it up, but whatever. It hides important things in the name of good organizations. No, come on, I'm just repeating myself here. So, yeah. And again, to be clear, I'm extremely happy that there's reviews of Plasma. Keep doing this. Keep bashing us and me and whoever. Go on. I'm actually very happy whenever a review comes up, whether it's positive or negative. Of course, if it's negative, then I get to do a whole I disagree and I'm sort of offended by some of your sentences. But yeah. I don't mean this video to be like super aggressive. That's what I'm trying to say. But yeah, 1 hour. I thought this was going to be 15 minutes. See, yeah.